Hi everyone. I'm going to show you an exercise that I think can help you to generate more power when you throw, can help you to refine proper sequencing and help you to get more distance on your throw. So this is something where we're going to get our legs, our lower body more involved in our throw. We're going to be using this exercise probably when we're at the point where we understand basic mechanics of throwing, probably throwing about maybe 300, 350, but just at the point where you understand what are the different parts of a throw. If you understand all the vocabulary that I'm using during this video, then you're probably at the right time. So let's go ahead and get into it. First thing I want to do, thinking about building off of lower body movement. We're using lateral movement. This is something that we do when we throw. Even if we're not really translating power from our lower body into our throw, this might be something that we're still doing. So that might look for some people like a lateral step. And I'm just doing this right here. We're going from one leg to the other. If you do a walk up when you throw, which is something I do, I don't really run up in my throw. You might be using some movement like this. You also might be doing something more like a lateral jump or a lateral bound. This is when maybe you're doing more of like a run up in your step where you have both legs off the ground at one point in your throw. So here's a demonstration of that. I'm also going to give you a little bit of a slow-mo because this is what we're going to be doing during our exercise and what I'm going to be focusing on mostly in this video. So during a lateral jump or a lateral bound, I'm loading up that back leg, pushing off into that front leg, and I'm bracing. So I'm absorbing the forces that are generated from my landing into my knees, into my hips, and I'm loading up those muscles, and that gives them extra force, extra energy that they can then push off of. We're going to use that force that we generate to basically move up in through our torso, through our arm, into our wrist, into that throw. So with that, and again, you can watch that again here, see what happens, just pushing off of that back leg into that front leg. When I do this here, I'm not having my body move past that front leg, and that's generally a good sign that we are loading the leg properly, and in disc golf we call that bracing. You're probably going to hear me say loading, bracing, whichever, it means the same thing, but we're just basically putting energy into the muscles from that force that we generate off that back leg into that front leg that we can then use to get more power into our throw. So understanding what that basic movement looks like, we're going to take that and do an exercise, and I'm going to show you what that looks like here, and then we're going to break it down. So I do a lateral jump and I do my throw, and I'll show you that one more time and then give you the slow-mo. So to do that, what we're going to basically be doing is same thing as we do with lateral movement. We're starting on that back leg. We're going to be loading up that back leg as well. This is something that's naturally going to happen in your walk up, in your run up of your throw. You're going to be seeing I'm rotating through my thoracic spine, through my torso, extending that arm, avoiding rounding as much as is possible by thinking about loading up the torso and twisting through my spine as opposed to reaching with my shoulder, with my arm. We can get more movement in that upper body if I rotate in my spine, and then we can then generate more power as well. So we're not throwing in a sense entirely with the arm, and that's something once you get the basics of throwing down and learning all the different parts of a throw is one thing that you'll figure out and one thing that you will then incorporate into your throw. So and we'll go ahead and watch this again. I'll kind of give you again the steps. One thing that's key with this exercise and key with sequencing and generating power, generating more distance, as you see me push off of this back leg as well, I'm trying to not move my torso, not trying to move my arm at all until that front leg plants. And then you see once that leg plants, you see twisting at the torso and then my throwing motion. So in terms of generating power, we want to get as much power out of our legs as possible. And if I'm twisting at my torso, doing my throw, moving my arm, that's going to be lost power. I'm not really allowing for enough time for that energy to translate, to move from my leg up into my torso and then through the arm into the hand and get more power out of that throw. So think about when you do this exercise, I'm planting, make a conscious effort before I have any other movement up through the rest of my body. And that's key. And that's what we're going to be trying to do when we throw. That's one reason why people can't really get their legs involved in their throw, is because the sequencing is off. I'm moving my torso before I've even planted and loaded up my lower body muscles. So, and again, that might be something that if you have pain when you throw or discomfort, might be because we have energy that's going in all different spots and we're moving with our upper body and our lower body isn't even ready for that yet. So there's the slow-mo of that video. This might be something that when you do this, if you have a walk up, you might be just doing a lateral step, loading up. When you plant in that front leg off the step, you throw through. If you're doing more of like a run up, then maybe you're trying more of like a lateral jump here, kind of like I've been demonstrating in this video, but you're going to be able to generate more power with a jump as opposed to a step. So build off that step maybe to start if this is something that you're not quite as familiar with, or maybe you're kind of just getting your form down and understanding how you move. Again, don't try to do things that you are and your body is not ready for yet. It's going to translate better if you stack your building blocks before you go past that. Some things to think about with this exercise: you're going to be doing this when you practice. If you're not practicing yet and you're trying to increase your distance, well, breaking news for you, you're going to have to practice. This is something we don't do during our rounds. When we play our rounds, we want to perform. We want to go out and have fun with our friends. And if we're thinking about all these million different things that we need to do to move the way we want to move, we're not going to be able to do that. We're not going to be able to perform because we're focusing not on being able to perform. We're focusing on these little intricacies. And if we want to have fun, well, we're thinking about a million other things. So take time to practice. This doesn't necessarily mean you have to do this 7 days a week. I recommend for something like this, especially thinking about refining movement, you're going to need lots of reps over time. So do this like maybe 2 times to start, progress to like 3 to 4 days a week if you're serious about this and you want to increase your distance. If you practice not quite as much, your distance isn't going to go up and quite as fast. You're going to get more distance if you do this or do any sorts of practicing and you haven't been practicing at all. But again, build off of things. Don't start throwing a million times a day if you haven't as well. Slowly build up into it. Think about as well, when you do this specifically during your training sessions, do this maybe during when you practice maximum distance. If you're trying to practice accuracy and you're trying to throw as hard as possible, those two things don't necessarily correlate. So do this when you're trying to think about building your max distance. This is something that when you're doing this, you could do this maybe a couple times, 3 to 5 times, and then go ahead, do a throw. Or do this one time to prime yourself for that movement before you do the throw, especially if your sequencing is off and that's something that you're trying to work on. Other than that, let's go ahead and put it all together. So I'll show you a slow-mo of me doing the exercise and then going into a throw. So I'll go through this once. You're going to see me load up a little bit in my legs. I'm getting as much movement, loading up my torso, my arm, the coil of disc golf, pushing off of that back leg. And then you see me plant and then going through that movement. My follow through, the way I move, how I load up might be different compared to what you do. Look at what the general things are that good throwers do, and then try and build your throw based off of those, foundational principles. You don't have to do everything specifically like a great thrower does. Everyone moves differently, and that's fine. Our joint structures, our bone structures are all different, so that's going to lead to different movements. So after I do that, I ran through, primed that movement, then I'm going to go ahead and do a rep. And based off of your needs, if your throw sequencing, whatever, is off a lot, you might have to do that a lot more times to prime your body before you throw. So I'm going through, I'm doing this, I did the exercise, and then I'm going to go ahead and throw and see if that translates. Again, if you're trying to get better at throwing, trying to increase your distance, film yourself. It's the only way that you're going to know how you move. So I'm going through my throw, and then as you can see, extending back in the torso and the arm, plant right there, and then you have the throw. So this might be something as well. It might feel differently if you haven't been doing it and then you do it. So understand how that feels like as well when you throw. I want to go back to filming. Film yourself, do slow-mos. Understand as well that in the sequence of training, you're not going to be able to do this exercise a million times because generating maximum power is only something that we can do so many times before we fatigue. So do this 3 to 5 times or 1 time before and interspersing throws. And then come back, look at your film, and then that's going to give your body time to recover, but it's also going to allow you to see if you checked your boxes, accomplish the things that you're actually trying to do. We have a million other things that we probably have to accomplish and do in life besides doing a bunch of throws in disc golf and not playing. So use the most of your time because also that's a limited resource, especially if you're someone who has kids and a job and all these other things, other hobbies, other interests. So practice makes permanent. You are going to end up defaulting to doing the things that you do the most. So practice often, practice many times. I'm not saying practice 7 days a week, throwing 100 million times every day, but just understanding that you need to do things a lot, especially when it comes to movement patterns. It's not just a muscular thing, it's a neuromuscular thing. So you have the way that you move and the way that your brain tells your muscles to fire in sequencing, especially with athletic movements. So that's something that we acquire over the course of doing things hundreds, thousands, maybe even millions of times. So practice often, like I said. One thing to think about as well with this, one thing I like specifically for power generation in my throw, I think it's huge, especially with just generating power, maximum strength, getting our maximum distance. Stay loose. If you think about the movement of energy as well, it's not just about sequencing, but about allowing energy to move through as well. And when people try and really clamp down, be tense with their throws, it doesn't necessarily always allow energy to move through the body properly. We're taking movement all the way from our feet, all the way up into, this pinch between my thumb and my index finger. So that's something that might not generally happen if we have, energy getting stuck in some spots because my body is tense. So again, try different things. Maybe you like having that tight grip. If you feel like that doesn't allow you to stay loose in your wrist, in your elbow all the way through, then try everything so that you know what works best for you and your body. Again, some people, other things might work. Some things for you might work better. Other than that, that's kind of all I got. If you thought this was helpful, let me know. If you have other questions about this or just power generation or refining your movement in disc golf, leave a comment. If you have other things that you'd like my insight or explanations of, you feel free to let me know in the comments with that as well. Otherwise, thanks for watching.